session has been reduced to 30 minutes only. So now straight away, without any prevarication as such, I would like to welcome the panelists. And straight away, I would like to sum up actually some of the gaps the students have raised with regard to the internship pattern. Because the students do internship and face certain challenges and certain difficulties, which I'm going to sum up actually in their own words, without any prevarication as such. Lack of interaction with the advocates, project guides, as they hardly find time for the interns. Briefs are given for reading purposes and to search out relevant cases of similar facts. That means practical work is not given to them. Duration of the internship is too short to understand the nitty-gritty of the legal profession. As per the BCI norms, of course, 4 weeks, but certain universities and colleges have extended it to 6 weeks and 8 weeks, as the case may be. And project reports prepared at the end of the internship are not always according to the area of their interest, and most of them are based not on empirical research, but simply research. And no payment or stipend whatsoever for the work done by the interns. And moreover, this one is not a blameworthy one, otherwise it's all right. The internship program has become more of a formality to fulfill than what it was actually intended for. And last one, students hailing from rural areas or less reputed law schools and colleges are not given ample opportunities to get interned in good law firms. This is the summation that the students have drawn before, after and during their internship. So generally, I feel these are the gaps. So straight away, I would like to shoot questions actually to the panelists. Because of the dearth of time, the first question that comes your way is, what are the traits of personality that you expect from an intern, and in compatibility with the legal profession rather, I must say.
Thank you for putting this question. I would like to say a threshold. You can't expect a personality from a student who has just entered into the law college. You have to develop, you have to nurture. And this is the joint effort of the institution where they are studying and then where they are interning. This is the first point. So you can't shift the entire burden of the institution to the lawyer's chamber by saying that yes, they are looking for the particular personality and this personality is lacking. This is not that. Number two, so far the internship is concerned, you are talking about the time period of 4 weeks and they are not being given the briefs and they are not having the practical. But see, there is a difference between the internship and the law researcher and the judicial clerk. As an intern, you have to first watch what kind of the profession this is. So 4 weeks being given, you watch the proceeding, you watch the court craft, you learn how the brief should be prepared, how you should be read, what kind of the pleadings are there. So you will have to get some idea about this profession. This is not like that you are going to enter. And so far the 4 weeks is concerned, the 4 weeks is for first year to fourth year. But you must remember, if you are in the final year, it is a mandatory to have 3 months internship, so that you are going to just enter into this profession and you need a sufficient time to learn so many things. But what the students are doing, they are not confined their internship at the one place. In those 3 months, they have the 3 internships. The different places. So of course, if you are going to a chamber, first week will take time to adopt the culture, environment, work environment of the chamber. So you need to be confined. You need to be confined to one chamber. Second thing I would like to say, the salary part you were talking about. You are a student. It's my personal view, you should not involve the money part during your education. If you are the law clerk, you are the researcher, of course you must be compensated. And very important thing, there is no concept of the salary in the profession. You are not an employee, there is no relationship of employer and employee with your senior. You are a colleague, you are the office associate. Today you are associate with me, tomorrow you could be the member of the bench, you could be the counsel opposite me, you could be the law officer, you have a lot of things. So I personally don't treat them as a servant, and there is no concept of the salary. Of course, we are paying them, we are compensating them as per their capability, but I don't agree with the salary and the timing.
How do you think that the interns would contribute to your organization, and what do you expect when you hire them?
See, what I say, thank you so much for the platform, first of all, and I am Mayank, CEO of JRTC Intern. In an organization, we do not expect anything from an intern because they are at their education stage, as second by Sir has said, because they are at a very initial stage of their life. They need to understand how their life would be 5 years down the line when they'll be at the same position. We do not expect intern to perform in an organization. What we expect from them is the diligence, the sense of responsibility that they should have while interning with any organization or any partner. If any person have interested anything, just for the sake of like teaching them, anything, any draft or any research work that they are doing as of now. So he should take the responsibility onto him and perform that much, that he gives something concrete to the partner because they have relied on that. That much is merely expected from an intern in an organization.
That paves way for another question. That is, do you people conduct actually a sort of workshop, disseminating the practicalities of the legal profession, or making the students aware of as to what aspects are expected of them with regard to the legal profession?
Yeah, definitely workshops will definitely help, because it's really important for the student to understand how they should go beyond this, what should be the professionalism they should follow while getting into an organization, because that's really important for them to understand this. Professionalism, because when you are entering into any profession, you should understand the aspects of it. So workshops can be with the senior partners, workshop can be with the lawyers, the organization, some researchers, wherever they are interning. So they could like interact with the students and tell them what's the expectations from them, so that they are already prepared from it, because that can only make the legal internships meaningful. I get many applications, sir, that I want to intern in a tier 1 law firm, but they don't know the culture over there. They have not interned anything. They don't know anything about the specific aspect of a particular area of practice. Then what they gonna do in a tier 1 law firm? But first they need to understand what's the important aspect of that particular area of practice, maybe merger and acquisition, maybe IPR, and the partner of that law firm in that specific practice can take up the session and help them, students, understand and make internships more meaningful. That's what I say. Thank you.
See, when we send the students for internship, generally we tell them, you need to learn something which is not taught within the 4 walls of a classroom. No, are they really, imbibing, absorbing actually the practical content? And they simply say that they are made to read the briefs, go through them. Will it really be contributing to their professional development? Yeah, Pallavi ma'am, you can take up this.
No, I think, see, in any internship, these interns who come, primarily they'll come because they think that they are going to learn. However, they come and they come with their own terms. They'll come and they'll tell us, I can only come for 3 days or 4 days. I'll come for 4 hours. I will do only this much. And in any litigating law firm, primarily we are in court till 4:30, 5 o'clock. By the time we come back, they've already left the office because they have their own life to deal with. So therefore, any partner or any advocate would only be able to explain to a person after 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, which is when their primary work has been over. They are not there to see it. And then if you give them a brief, you are expecting them to read it. If they are not able to understand it, you expect them to ask you questions. However, what they do is, I've had interns who for the entire month have actually sat on one file, not been able to understand anything of it, and not even come back to me, or every time that I've asked them, were you able to understand this point? Were you able to deal with this? They have gone completely blank.
Because the earlier question, what I said, actually, there is no interaction.
Sir, these are the ones who come from very good law colleges also. First year law students, I completely understand. I don't even understand why in the first year they even come for an internship, because they hardly know anything. It's like they're just coming to, get that certificate, and that's about it. Fourth, fifth year students are the ones who are actually well-read, who've probably understood the nuances of law a little bit, where then they can actually contribute. But the first year, second year, I honestly feel that it's just forcing them to come and do something which they don't even understand. No matter how much I go and try and explain, like I have this girl, very enthusiastic, very positive. I actually ended up learning a lot from her because I am not very tech savvy and she was. So she sort of got me through the iPad thing. But then she had only read IPC. She had no idea about CRPC, CPC, the procedural part of it. And then she said that, ma'am, we've finished IPC in 3 months, so I don't even understand it. So I said, you know what you do? For the 1 whole month that you're here, why don't you just read IPC? And come back and ask me questions, because I'm sure 3 months mein to mujhe bhi nahi samajh mein aayega IPC, these are just kids, 18, 19 years old. So I feel that, there is a gap there, where I don't know how we can contribute, because kids actually come with a lot of expectation. And we are all so bombarded with work when the courts are on that it's very difficult for us to, and I am guilty of it, that it is difficult for me to contribute with them on a daily basis. Yes.
Mr. Pranav, how do you think that you would be maintaining the confidentiality of the data that you usually share actually with your interns? You may not be, but now and then, of course, you may be giving them the live cases, something as such, not to reveal the names at least, but the facts of the cases, and making them search the relevant cases of the similar facts. Sometimes we do that.
I think it's just not the intern. Sometimes you don't want to share things with some of your team members also, because it's too confidential for junior members to know if it's really affecting top management, right? Because the news spreads really fast. But if it's really interns that we're worried about, we have a NDA, then we have separate drives. We maintain confidentiality by not telling them whether it's a real life situation or it's an old situation. We construct it in a manner which is more practical oriented, so that they think on the ground. And some of the questions for which we know the answers, we don't tell them, because we want them to think on the feet. But having said that, I think maintaining confidentiality is a two-way street. It just not happens by the corporate or by a lawyer, independent practice, or by a law firm for that matter. If things are to be leaked, it can be leaked by any member of the firm. It's just not interns. Interns are, I think, the least bothered person in the entire org structure, because you have long-term members who know much more.
In the end, we ask actually something new should be there in your project report. At least the live cases, or the, what shall I say, the live incidents, or something of that sort actually. Because the entire work should be based on empiricism, not cut, copy, paste. That's what we ultimately are. And based on that, we'll be asking them the questions also. And as I told you, that they should learn something new, not is what I already taught them in the 4 walls or within the 4 walls of a classroom.
So I'll just take about a minute, and I'll say probably internships in a corporate structure is much more different than maybe someone who's working for Pallavi, or someone who's working for a NEOR, or somebody who's working for Saraf and Partners, right? That expectations are different, the kind of work is different, the kind of work hours you put are different. We cannot micromanage as good as maybe an independent lawyer who has only about 2 interns, right? And it's way possible that an intern gets distracted by all the things that are happening at corporate. There's some event happening, there's always IT team members who are doing some collaboration. it's very easy to get distracted and not focus on work. Of course, there's free food, there's free, beverage counter and all that. So very, very focused interns can only make it in a corporate setup with an assessment internship is what I would say.
Professor, I would actually like to address the question that you asked to the other panelists. First at the very outset, just so that many of you have this background, I used to look after the recruitment program at Luthra and Luthra law offices, and I continue doing that in my present avatar at Saraf and Partners. I would have easily recruited more than 200 law graduates over the years from different campuses for the firms that I work with or continue to work with. I cannot relate to some of the points that you actually made about the feedback that the interns are giving. For the simple reason that at least as a senior partner at Saraf and Partners, I can tell you that when we are going for recruitment, we are almost targeting almost 85 to 90% of recruitment happen through pre-placement offers, which is through the internship program. For many of you who are sitting here, I'm from the first batch of NLU Jodhpur, and nobody knew what National Law University Jodhpur was until I did my internship and got a pre-placement offer from Luthra. And I was, of course, thereafter, continued my stint at Luthra for 17 years until the firm sort of got divided. So we, look at internship program very, very seriously. We are looking at almost top 10, top 12 law schools. We take interns from them. We pay them a good stipend. We look after them well. Typically, interns are assigned specific teams. They're expected to make a presentation at the end of the internship, and so on and so forth. So we do all of that because we actually genuinely believe that an interview on day zero at campus, it's very difficult to identify talent in that 30 minutes or in 45 minutes. The best way to identify talent is when you see them working for a longer stint. But here is where are the bitter pills. The reality is, and I think what Pramod sir was alluding to, what Pallavi was alluding to, that there is a generational shift in a manner that I think most of us as professionals will not be able to relate to. The hunger, the desire to work hard is missing by and large, and I'm not, please don't take this as a rant coming from someone who's an ageist, as many youngsters now call it. The reality is, and myself being from a law school, having gone through that internship program from a college that wasn't known at that point in time, all I would like to share is that ultimately the success of an internship program would largely depend upon the hunger, the willingness for this intern to actually be wanting to work hard. Because ultimately also, let me tell you very clearly, and some of the professors from different colleges are sitting here, there is an oversupply now. The number of colleges compared to the number of law firms, yes, smaller firms are mushrooming, yes, there is a bigger market now, but I would still feel the supply is massively disproportionate. And the irony and the paradox is that we as law firm senior partners or as recruiters, when we look at the recruitment pool, the reality is the recruitment pool is just those 200, 300 law graduates, which every law firm is attacking. So we go for day zero where the top 10, top 20 have multiple offers, but you look at the below rank or you look at other colleges, they don't even have a single recruiter showing up. So the job of all law schools is to now expand that pool. The irony is all the top law firms are looking at that pool of 200, 300 students. So the colleges need to work hard at developing that pool to be much more recruitable, number one. Number two, I think there needs to be an emphasis, law is a jealous mistress. People need to be told that if you're joining law as a profession, it is like medicine. What do you talk about work-life balance? You have to believe that work is exactly your life. Unless you don't have that mindset, I'm sorry, students will not be able to derive much out of the internship program. And the reality is that, those were the days where I'm sure Pramod sir or any of us, would be sitting in office as a junior intern, wanting the seniors to continue giving us work. And, we would like the seniors to tell us what time you should leave. This is not meant to be a rant against the current generation. I'm sure everybody speaks like that, oh, we did this and we did that. But the reality is colleges need to work very hard in inculcating a sense of realism. The sense of entitlement needs to be curbed with the current generation. You need to be told it's a hard-working profession. Talent, brilliance will only take you that far. If you have not bothered to read the last 20 judgments of the Supreme Court on a particular issue, no matter how bright you might be, you'll sound foolish and stupid when you talk about that subject. So that will only happen when there's a sense of commitment. So what colleges need to do is to imbibe that sense of willingness to work hard. You know, Steve Jobs said it, stay hungry, stay foolish. I'm sorry, that hunger needs to come out. And that, I'm afraid, despite the fact that we as law firm recruiters do so much, I think that's where we are finding it as a challenge.
That gives me the specific question to ask you in particular. What are the parameters then you resort to actually for assessing or evaluating the competency of the interns? Or in short, how should an intern perform to get a pre-placement?
I'll let first senior Pramod sir respond.
There are 2-3 things coming in the way these days. First, we have the lot of the students we are applying well in advance. They are sending their CV. The second lot, we are coming across, they are sleeping over. The last moment, suppose there is a vacation starts or the internship program starts, they are using their influence. And there we are overburdened. We can't say no. Suppose Mr. Vaibhav Kakkar is a good friend of mine and he's making the request and sending some student, Mr. Dubey, can you accommodate him? We don't have any option, we'll say yes, bhej do. So in that circumstances, we are also overburdened. Though I must confess, I provide minimum 70 to 80 internship in a year. And I have learnt a lot from the interns, the new generation, because they are the future of this profession. Thirdly, I myself has made the offer and requested the interns, you join my office, seeing their capability. In my chamber, I don't want to talk about the other chambers, but in my chamber, I do provide the opportunity to sit in the conference, having the client and counsel's conference, take the note, do the research, everything. But sometimes we are so fed up, they are so demanding, sir, what would be the timing? 4 o'clock we want to leave, we don't have the time, and we are so apprehensive. In this social media era, we are so apprehensive, we can't be push the interns to do a particular matter in a particular manner. Otherwise, tomorrow they will put any tweet or the social media post. Ki this chamber is doing this, they are the anti, they are inhuman, there are so many things. So I would request, because all the colleges are there, they must prepare them before sending for the internship, what kind of the profession this is, because in this profession, the only thing is the respect. If you are teaching the law, the first chapter is the precedent, rule of law, source of law. The precedent, give the respect to your senior, do the hard work. When I joined the profession with Mr. Luthra, there was a time when the Tahalka Commission was going on. Every night I used to go to my home around 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and I had to report in Vigyan Bhavan by 9:30. And it went on for a year. So the maximum sleeping time was 3 to 4 hours. So we were not demanding, we have the hunger. We have the hunger to learn so many things. But these days when we are coming from the chamber courts, interns are not there. What you are doing? They all are watching so many things in the mobile. They are involved in the social media. They are only interested in the certificate. Anyhow to get the certificate so that they can submit the certificate in the college. So this is the equal, at the inception I said this is equal responsibility of the college also to prepare the student for doing the positive internship rather getting the certificate.
You know, I'll just add to what Dubey sir said. Look, I think the reality is you have to tell the students in your colleges that they're not God gifts to mankind. There is oversupply and you will get lost out in the crowd if you don't put in that extra effort.
I would like to say one thing. And because all the colleges are teachers, all the eminent teachers, our guru are sitting there, there is a lacking of some discipline in the new generation. Discipline in the new generation. Day before yesterday, there was one intern from the very prestigious college of the NCR. She joined the same day. I came from the outside. I introduced myself. All the interns were sitting on the chair. I was standing, I was introducing, but they didn't have the manner and the courtesy to stand and give the proper respect at the time of the introduction. So this kind of the student we are getting. So it is humble request to the college to mentally prepare them, sir, this is the profession, this is not the job. You are going in the very noble profession,
of course,
and you are the
we
future.
teach them professional ethics.
Yes,
which happens to be one of the clinical
they are
subjects,
lacking in the professional
apart
ethics.
from the other three.
They don't have the respect.
No, I think what Pramod sir is talking about is not teaching a particular subject, which is mandatory as per Bar Council rules. That's not what we are alluding to. I think it's about culture. I think the professors, all the academicians who we greatly respect, I think need to absolutely overburden the students with work. They need to get used to working hard. I'm being honest with you. If I had Professor N.L. Mitra, who was the director of NLS Bangalore, he started NLU Jodhpur, and he was associated with IIT Kharagpur as well to start a law program there. He's a mentor for NLU Odisha. I don't think I would have even been able to perform half as much as I did at my law firm if I had not been put through the grueling schedule in the colleges. So please do not concern yourself so much about human rights of students. Make them work hard, and you have to inculcate that sense in them that they will get lost out in the crowd. You have to make them feel a little insecure. And that's the only way. Look, intelligence is a given. If you're not intelligent, you're not going to make it in life. But apart from intelligence, hard work, humility, a little bit of decorum, I think those habits go a long way. I must confess to you, here I am from a law firm telling you we are struggling to retain talent. So I'm on the other side of the spectrum. You're talking about how people should do internship, get jobs. We as recruiters are troubled with trying to retain talent. So look at the demand-supply mismatch here. We both are looking at different angles of the whole problem. And what is also very important that we would truly implore law schools to also somehow inculcate that sense is that, look, profession is a very long drawn-out one. Please don't make judgment calls on the basis of 1 month, 6 months, 1 year. You're right. You learn, you pick up along the way. And what you were initially when you joined an organization, what you will be after a few years, there's a massive change. And there will be a massive change just because of the amount of work that you do. So you have to give it that much time. My problem is that people these days, even colleges, they look at, so many law firms came and recruited. Has any law school actually bothered to check how many of them end up retaining in a law firm 1 year later or 2 years later? You'll see it's pathetic, the gap. So what is very important is that you need to prepare students to be prepared for a long run. Only then the benefits will start accruing. And legal profession, and I'm sure Pramod sir will agree, and Pallavi will agree, and Pranav will too, that the power of compounding that we talk about when we look at investments, it's the same geometric progression when it comes to legal profession. Once you've done your first 5-7 years of profession, that's when the returns start coming your way. And but you have to have that patience.
Dr. Khan, I had the occasion to read a very interesting book written by Mr. Falli Nariman, and that's the Before the Memory Fades. And he has narrated what is the relationship between the associates and the senior. And he says that your identity is which chamber you are from. And chamber is not a chamber, it's a gotra, it's a cool, it's a family. So you have to adopt the family, and the family must adopt you. Then you can go in the long term. You see the history of the legal, Indian legal judicial system. You see all the prominent lawyers, the jurists, they have the history behind them, which chamber they are from. So it's a very pious relation. We have to develop that relation. Then we can survive, because Vaibhav has rightly said that this profession is not so simple. You are not coming to this profession for making the money. And there are 3 phases in this profession. The first phase, work without money. The second, work with money. Now you have trained, you have crossed 5 years of your profession, you have learned professional ethics and the code craft. So you are earning, and there is a work also, you are doing the work. Third phase is money without work. Now you are so experienced, your mind is working, you can point out what is the problem is, which judgment is applicable. So you have to cross all these 3 phases. You have to be patient. You don't jump in the third phase without crossing first and second phase. This is the mandate of the profession. And this is lacking these days.
I think so very well said. I think the interns are only looking at the last leg wherein they see a lot of seniors or a lot of head of departments having some kind of work-life balance, and they start expecting that to happen 25 years even before they've crossed that path, which is terribly wrong. Because if you look at Supreme Court, even High Court or even District Court judges, they put in so much hard work. They actually get back to their homes, write judgments. They have no vacations to say. I mean, vacations don't only write judgments, but their value or their hard work is much more than the litigator himself, because he's actually taking that vacation with his family. Judges do not have that luxury as much as other people have. Even corporates, you see, we don't have the concept of vacations at all. We have our normal leaves, and we put in as much work as not as much as Vaibhav, but actually as much as a good law firm partner is, because in-house is now becoming more and more stringent in terms of spending money on outside firms. And that means there's a lot more work that's given inside rather than outside. And if you want an intern to be looking at all of that, I don't think anybody's expecting that you will be a subject matter expert. Everybody's expecting you put in some dedication, we'll teach you, but you stay in office or you stay connected. And if you don't do that, I think half the battle is already lost, because somebody's made their mind, a senior associate, that this person is not interested in learning, which is where they don't get recruited back to or they don't get an assessment internship. I think the culture needs to change, and it should come from the law school, wherein there should be some kind of course or some kind of mentorship from the industry to tell them how important it is. But ultimately, it is your internship or your work at a law firm that will decide your course of being a good lawyer or a bad lawyer. It's not the curriculum, because all you need is 50 or 60%. It will affect maybe in terms of you're going to LLM or a PhD, but I think learning is, while you walk, it's a continuous process. Nobody's 100% in a law school. I haven't seen that ever. So,
what do you think as a component or as an ingredient should be added actually to the law curriculum so as to make the students more competent and compatible enough for the legal profession, as you people were talking about?
I would like to say over here, the approach that law student follows while choosing an internship is wrong in my aspect, because they are actually trying to go to the highest level, which sir said as of now, that they try to go to the Supreme Court or they try to go to the topmost law firm as of now. But just trying to write the name of that particular firm in their CV, that I have interned there, I have interned there. But when it comes to the interview, which said, at the point of interview, they failed everything, because the basic knowledge of that...
It's purely embellishment of their biodata, not carving out a real future or career of their own, isn't it? That's what you mean to say.
Yeah.
Just to, I think, add to what the panelists are saying, look, I think what needs to happen is law schools need to spend some time. Firstly, the recruitment process should largely be driven through the college. The RCC, the campus should be involved in deciding which intern is going to which organization. There should be some application of mind in terms of, okay, these are the students who are going to different colleges, different organizations. Then get your seniors, your alumni, to maybe have a chat with them, to prepare them. The academics and the academicians should certainly have a role to play in sort of preparing them for the internship program. I've seen students coming from certain colleges not even done a basic of company law, but are actually now wanting to internship in a corporate law firm. And we struggle to even identify areas of work we can give to them. So I think colleges need to spend a lot of time. I mean, I still remember that when we would look at doing an internship at a particular organization, we would try and identify. I unfortunately didn't have a senior batch because I am from the first batch, but we try and identify certain people there who are working, identify what are the areas that organization works with, that chamber works with, and then obviously equip yourself very well before you do the internship. It is ultimately an examination. If Mr. Dubey likes a student intern who's a great, acumen in criminal law, I'm sure Mr. Dubey would be very excited to look at those interns and then absorb them in his chamber subsequently.
Miss that intelligence. We have more hunger to retain the
That's the irony. That is the irony. He's always looking out for those juniors. I'm always looking out for those interns. But that hunger needs
It's very difficult to retain the good people and get the good people. So we are more interested in retaining and keeping the intelligent and the hard working and disciplined person in the organization. Dr. Khan, I would like to share when I started my independent practice. I was fully supported by my senior. So the senior-junior relation is the one family. We have to grow together. It's very important in this profession. And 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 5 weeks internship only for the purpose of giving you the idea what is the criminal law about, what is the corporate law about, what is the arbitration about, so that you start thinking about the pro and cons of these things. And then you decide in the final year which type of the profession you are going to join.
I'll ask you a question in return. For instance, if there's 2 students who are going on internship to Mr. Dubey, now he's a noted criminal law expert, would you send students who have not studied CRPC and get them to intern with Mr. Dubey? That's where the challenge is.
Generally, students actually choose the area of their interest and also the internship firm.
That's where colleges need to intervene. That hang on, I don't think you're equipped because you've not studied CRPC, you've not studied IPC. You're doing an internship primarily with a gentleman who's considered an expert in criminal law. Most of the briefs that he would get are of that particular subject matter. Maybe I think you should go in the 4th year. So that qualitative assessment needs to happen. Today, colleges are also doing this in an autopilot mode. Oh, students have come, some students have applied on their own, they've gotten this internship. Some universities have reached out to certain organizations, they've done internships, but there has to be a lot more application.
We have stages actually for second sem student who happens to be in first year would be sent under an advocate, isn't it? Not directly to the Supreme Court or to the High Court advocate or something as such, isn't it? So there are gradations.
No, I think you're oversimplifying it. We're talking of domain expertise when you're assigning certain interns to a particular senior, a particular chamber, a particular
Unless
law.
that subject is taught, he cannot be expert in domain.
Exactly. So that subject,
that depends upon the gradation. That's what I'm saying.
There has to be that application of mind.
It's a gradation.
Yeah, there has to be that application of mind. And there then decision need to be made. I'm genuinely telling you, we have law schools who send us CVs and who we then have to consider for internships who've not studied the sea of company law.
I think Pallavi has some points he wants to...
I do. Actually, I wanted to ask you, when these interns, these law students actually come back to you with these complaints, how do you tackle it? What is it that you tell them? Do you tell them that brief is what you're supposed to read? Do you tell them, when you sort of gave us those 10 pointers, that these are essentially the questions, because this is what the intern also comes and complains to me, that you've not spent so much time with me, or you've just given me a research to be done. How is it that you tackle it? Because I think it's important for us to look
first
at
of all,
how you are handling that part.
I would like to answer your query. See, we try honing up their abilities actually and make them learn or enable them to imbibe and absorb the basics in every subject. Without basics, the student is incomplete. That's what I feel actually. And later on, after teaching them the basics of every subject, we tell them, now you need to learn something that has not been taught to you within the 4 walls of the class.
But when they come back to you and complain about the internship that they just did,
because the basics
how do you
are the
handle
only
that?
things which give them the acumen to understand
Correct.
the concept in the later course of time.
Correct.
But the point.
What I'm
See,
trying to
sometimes
say
it so
here-
happens, shall I tell you?
Sure.
See, those who are not good at academics will turn out to be good liars.
That is true.
No, there is no relationship between the academics
That is
and
true.
the practice.
I'm not even on that part. What I'm saying is when they come to you and complain, I think that's where you also have to tell them that you are supposed to read the brief. That is the whole long and short of being a lawyer. And if a lawyer is giving you a brief to read, that's what you're supposed to do. What else do you expect to do? Law research is half of our work.
But he should not be relegated only to reading briefs only for a long period of.
That's
Once he
actually-
understands,
that's actually
then
not
he
the
should be
case. That's actually
upgraded
not the
actually
case.
to another practical
That's
work.
precisely what I'm saying. Now you're going to go ahead and defend the law student from that perspective. The point is, when I also do that, what happens is that the same story they are hearing from their law college also, that no, you're not supposed to read only the brief. You are supposed to read the brief. You should learn to get bored of reading a brief. You need to learn that law is a boring thing that you have to learn to do. They have those mobile phones or the iPads where they are watching Netflix with their AirPods on, and suddenly you walk in and you realize that they're just, oh my God, ma'am's here. That's exactly what's happening. Unfortunately, that's the
That is one aspect, and the other flip side is the introduction of GPT. That's what these people were discussing,
In
isn't
fact-
it?
in fact,
no,
let
especially
me-
preparation of the pleadings,
Professor,
the written
let-
statement and the plaints.
Professor, let me tell you one thing very clearly. And we've had a couple of sessions here, on the use of AI in law and all of that. And there's obviously a lot of discussions. And law firms will have to evolve and keep up with times. But I think one thing I want to, this is a very ominous statement I'm making. I think the use of AI will have a significant impact on hiring of junior level associates. I'm not talking at mid-level and senior level, because I think even Kunal and Shivarti and many of them concluded in the previous session that it will not replace human ingenuity. Judges, senior advocates, arguments, there's so much of emotions involved. None of that will get substituted. But a lot of junior work, as Pallavi is explaining, is research. And a lot of that will end up being done through AI tools in times to come. So it will have a severe question mark on recruitability from law schools. Anyway, there is a supply-demand imbalance. I genuinely think there are too many law schools now compared to the number of jobs. So now, add to that complication this other issue. These are not going to be easy times. So you have to inculcate that sense of hunger, and you have to prepare the students that internship has to be treated with that level of seriousness, that your impact should only be seen through your hard work, which unfortunately is seriously lacking.
One last question.
Dr. Khan, yes, please go. In terms of consolidating what everyone is saying, we need a structured process both ways. One is our ways of handling interns, and also interns understanding what should be expected, which is from the law school. And given the BCI does a lot of notices and notification, they should probably make a program that applies squarely to every law school which wants to have an internship cell. There should be a qualification measure of what should be looked in internship at the time of applying. And that intern should not be applying to more than number of firms to block everybody's time and date and availability. I think if we have BCI kind of having that measure and system, a lot of this problem which is handled independently by law schools right now and also getting affected by us guys will probably get solved. I think that's my suggestion.
What are the best practices that are there on the international level which can be adopted to reinforce and better the internship program here in India?
So, look, I think many of the, I can speak for myself at Saraf and Partners and previously at Luthra. I think most law firms in India are pretty much adopting best international standards already. In fact, I must say they're in fact a lot more warm and welcoming than perhaps most of our Western law firm counterparts. There is, like I said, I think all the big firms nowadays look at internship as a way of recruitment. In fact, I tell my HR that if we have not recruited more than 90% of the interns who worked at our firm, then clearly our internship program is not going well. So internship program internationally is also looked at a way to recruit students, because at least in those 4 weeks, in those 6 weeks, you're able to assess them much better than at least that 1 hour on a day zero campus recruitment. So internship programs, I think, are being looked after well. Some of the better firms, what they've actually done is that they would typically get the student to make a presentation at the end of 1 month, at the end of 6 weeks on a particular legal theme or a legal topic. And they would address their team members, the team that they worked with. In many instances, in our firm, for instance, we actually get interns to make presentation to the whole firm. So when this whole Hindenburg issue happened, for instance, what is the law on the same subject in US and UK when such research reports come out? So we actually got some interns to make a presentation. Now, that kind of sort of focus is, I think, lacking in some firms, but largely, I think law firms in India are pretty much adapting that. They're also giving stipends. So I think, like I said, I'll repeat myself, the irony is that recruiters are looking at that same pool of 300, 400 students from these 5, 8, 10 law schools, and everybody is trying to attack those 400. The responsibility of this entire profession, all the professors, all the vice chancellors, is to expand that pool so that the pool is, all these students are recruitable. I'm afraid some of the law schools are producing students which are absolutely unrecruitable. That needs to change. And so therefore you need to also equip them to be able to handle the industry.
Industry compatibility that is to be maintained, yeah. Do we have time actually to take questions from the audience? Or shall we conclude? We are out of time. Okay, I thank profusely all the panelists for their innovative and perspicacious perspectives. which I think these deliberations will go a long way. And of course, we need to,
Perhaps the only
come
panel
forward
where the
actually
moderator was also
on
asked
both the
questions.
sides, rather. We need to adopt certain things.
Thank you.
And you need to adopt certain things.
Thank you,
actually,
Dr. Khan.
to fill up the gaps that are there actually.
Thank you so much,
the
and we are
grievances
lucky.
to
So
be
we
just
are
resorted
lucky
and-
that was under your moderation. That's a teacher. Still, we have the teacher to teach us. Thank you so much.